Bonjour viewers, welcome to my channel. This video is intended to be a compilation and analysis of information related to how we've now seen 3 separate characters in the Pokemon canon that have attained a near-immortal state. This does include spoilers for late and post-game story content in Pokemon Legends ZA. First of the 3 specific characters I was referring to earlier is of course AZ, who we knew back in original X and Y was already approximately 3,000 years old during that game's events. Reason for his extended life was implied to be a result of the machine that he used to revive his Floette, now referred to as Eternal Floette. Now, it was thought that it was simply a side effect of that machine that granted him such extended life, not unlike the extended life granted to the main character of the movie Green Mile. For those who've never seen that movie, spoilers for a movie that came out in 1999. Story revolves around a prison guard that ends up monitoring a certain individual that is accused of slaughtering a pair of sisters and is sentenced to death via electrocution. However, said individual seems to exhibit strange, almost messiah-like abilities that include healing the sick. Big TLDR, at the end of the movie, it's revealed that the narrating prison guard is not only over a century and a half old, but that he has been taking care of a random mouse that happened to be next to the prior Messiah character at the moment of Messiah character's execution over a century ago. The prison guard himself believes that his long life is essentially retribution for allowing the Messiah character to be executed. Anyway, bringing all that back to the story of AZ, the fact that AZ has been wandering the world trying to find his Floette all this time directly implies that he was being punished for his crimes 3,000 years ago. However, with the finale of X and Y, he has since been reunited with the Eternal Floette and thus apparently forgiven. Now, while this is spoiling the end credits scene for Legends EA, with the destruction of Ange and the end of AZ's weaponry systems, it is revealed that AZ has passed away. In fact, once the credits have rolled and you're in the post-game, if you ever go to the back corner of Wild Zone 4, Cemetery, you can find and read AZ's gravestone. So, what about the other 2 characters I had mentioned? Well, the second is actually the post-game twist boss of Legends Arceus, Pokemon wielder Volo himself. Now, the information on his long life is less explicit, but in Lumio's museum, you can find his toga outfit on display, and when you speak to the nearby NPC, they mention how the person who originally wore those clothes had personally donated them to the museum. While this is rather subjective, it is at least implied that the events of Legends Arceus take place well over a century prior to current Pokemon game timeline. So, if Volo personally donated his outfit to the museum for this exhibit, either Hisui is not nearly as ancient as we once thought, the museum has had this outfit for far longer than what is implied, or somehow Volo is still walking around in current game canon. Assuming we go with the latter of those 3, one has to wonder how Volo attained such long life. Was it a result of just good genetics, implying that there are certain segments of the Pokemon human population that live far longer than what IRL people would normally expect? Or was it a result of the Poke gods rending divine judgment upon him for his antics up at Spear Pillar? I mean, Volo was such a threat to Palkia, Dialga, and Arceus that the protagonist of Legends Arceus had to be plucked from modern times just to stop him. At any rate, with AZ and Volo touched upon, and I believe now is the appropriate time to mention the third individual. Spoilers for Legends ZA postgame once again. That individual being Lysander. Of course, to anyone playing through the game that had at one point played through X and Y, Lysander was instantly recognizable with or without that massive mane of hair. Also, it's likely that such a player would have wondered how he was A, still alive, and B, not in jail. Well, as the game progresses, it's revealed that he lost much of his memory of the events of X and Y, and that he was rescued from the rebel of the ultimate weapon by Zygarde himself. Having been rescued thus, and with little to no memory to go on, Lysander has been serving Zygarde as his effectively human voice, and has been carrying around Zygarde's cube. Now, as the events of the game play out, Lysander does begin to regain more and more of his memories, until he is able to not only remember enough of the conversations he had with AZ to know about Ange, but also to realize where he himself had gone astray in the progress of X and Y story. So you beat the game, you mourn AZ, and just in time for the post-game to begin, Lysander comes up to your character and mentions how he vaguely remembers the 2 box art legends, sending you on the quest to capture both Xerneas and Yveltal. Once you've done so, should you locate Lysander again, he's waiting to ambush you at Hotel Z's front door. He will challenge you to a full battle with his old X and Y team, Mega Gyarados and all. Beat him, and he will then send you to the base of the former Prism Tower to face and hopefully capture Zygarde. Should you be successful in defeating and capturing Zygarde, Lysander will not only hand you the Zygarde Cube, which allows you to swap forms between 10 and 50%, but will mention how he will look forward to wandering the world and seeing its beauty for the next 3,000 years himself. What? Yeah, so with AZ's penance apparently over, and now dead, it seems that Lysander will now have to face the long green mile until he has paid his due for attempting to use AZ's ultimate weapon. He does kind of imply that it was Xerneas that caused his extended life, though, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because how does he know he's been blessed, cursed, granted such long life? It is stated pretty clearly that the events of Legend ZA are only 5 years after the events of X and Y, and we know based on AZ that the extended life doesn't necessarily stop the individual from aging. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little theory analysis I've had regarding the Pokemon world and how certain humans are seemingly punished by the Poke gods with having to wait for the peace of death rather than simply being killed. Makes you wonder if any other antagonists have been graced with this punishment over the various games. In fact, we never did hear anything about Cyrus's fate after Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, did we? Wonder if he ever found what he was looking for. Or is he still maybe wandering the distortion world and will continue to be doing so millennia from now? Anyway, happy Halloween. Adieu.